Dear hearts, thank you for being here. Kathy and I are talking today about attachment and non-attachment, which Suzuki Roshi discusses in Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, on pages 118 through 21, in my copy anyway. And that's in the third section on right understanding. But really, it's throughout, and it's of course called different things in different places. And in reading this book, I'm just so struck by how everything connects with everything. So we're going to talk for about 10 minutes or so each, and we'll ask Marilyn to signal when our time is up or a little before, and then we'll break out into dyads and chat a little bit for 10 minutes if we have it, and then come back together and share and do the well-being chant and bow out. Well, since I have more expertise in attachment than non-attachment, I proposed to Kathy that I take attachment, she take non-attachment, but she wouldn't go for it. So, so we're both doing both. And we're going to riff on how we're seeing and living with attachment and non-attachment. Kathy.
It was fun. Susan, thank you. It was fun doing this project with Susan. Can you all hear me?
Yeah. So far.
So far, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a little hoarse, and I will say that, I wasn't going to say this, Susan, but I will say that I got very caught up in my edition, which is this. And, well, your edition, and my son has my old edition. So the hyphenation changes in non-attachment. Sometimes attachment is squished together. Sometimes it has a hyphen. And so I got very caught up in trying to figure out whether that was some sort of a thing in mine. But then I found out it just changes from edition to edition. So as a printer, I was concerned for the hyphen.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to begin reading. Let me just say also that I did not, I was puzzled by some things in this section. But I'm going to read a section that I think Susan's going to read a different one. But mine begins on my edition in page 111. And it's about Dogen saying that to learn something is to know yourself. To study Buddhism is to study yourself. To learn something is not to acquire something which you didn't know before. You know something before you learn it. There's no gap between the I before you know something and the I after you know something. There's no gap between the ignorant and the wise. A foolish person is a wise person. A wise person is a foolish person. But usually we think, he's foolish and I'm wise, or I'm foolish, but now I'm wise. How can we be wise if we are foolish? But the understanding transmitted from Buddha to us is that there is no difference whatsoever between the foolish man and the wise man. It is so. But if I say this, people may think I am emphasizing oneness. This is not so. We do not emphasize anything. All we want to do is to know things just as they are. If we know things as they are, there's nothing to point at. There's no way to grasp anything. There's no thing to grasp. We cannot put emphasis on any point. Nevertheless, as Dogen said, a flower falls even though we love it, and a weed grows even though we do not love it. Even though this is so, this is our life. In this way, our life should be understood. Then there's no problem. Because we put emphasis on some particular point, we always have trouble. We should accept things just as they are. This is how we understand everything and how we live in this world. This kind of experience is something beyond our thinking. In the thinking realm, there's a difference between oneness and variety. But in actual experience, variety and unity are the same. Because you create some idea of unity or variety, you're caught by the idea, and you have to continue the endless thinking, although actually there is no need to think. Okay, folks. Well, this Dharma practice has certainly helped me get to know myself, both the comfortable and the uncomfortable realities. Case in point, I'm a planner with the hope that nothing will disturb my plan. And as I age, I get more attached to this activity, this constant slicing and dicing, what could happen, what might happen, what I like, what I dislike, whether it's a daily, weekly, or yearly plan. I want to organize it. I want to escape as best I can whatever might go wrong and create fear or difficulty. I'm caught by endless thinking and ideas, and by what Thich Nhat Hanh calls habit energy, which often leads to not accepting things as they are. If my plans threaten to fall apart, I might be found walking towards my favorite chair to pick up the nearest book and open it to revel in someone else's life, preferably an unencumbered one. In truth, I'm not an everyday zazen person, but my mindfulness practice is an ongoing effort to notice when I find myself veering toward this particular path of attachment, leading to an upset of my plan. I really try to stop and take that backward step and kindly remind myself to sit with things as they are. Not always an easy task, sometimes involving a lot of coming and going. And an effort to remind myself that life includes everything, all feelings, even those I want to run from, and that the best thing would be a spacious mind, which is what non-attachment does for us really often. And speaking of feelings, emotion, and non-attachment, I found a really moving example of another kind of attachment resulting in a surprising benefit of non-attachment during a difficult emotional situation. This one in a book by Robert Makeo Rosenbaum, who received his lay entrustment from Mel Weitsman. He describes meditating with his sister when they sat with their dying father as he took his last breath. His sister suddenly jumped up and said to him, "Bob, it's your birthday." And he talks immediately, beginning to think that all of his future birthdays will be marked by attached to the sadness, and he begins to feel sorry for himself. A nurse nearby turned to him and smiled, and she said, "How wonderful!" And he realized that to have birth and death so intimately entwined, connecting the two of them, he and his father, turned his grief to gratitude. I decided when Chris gave us this opportunity that I would read this section every day and make notes. And I have to tell you about a kind of crazy, wonderful thing that happened one day while I was slicing and dicing these words of Suzuki, Roshi, and Dogen. I was thirsty, so I got up and I walked into the kitchen for some water. Now, I'm not a person who walks around with song lyrics in my head, but as I was drinking my water, I found myself given a gift by a momentarily spacious mind and a floating thought that said, "Don't think twice, it's all right." Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sing a few lyrics for us. Sing a few lyrics.
She was here to sing.
All done. No use to tell the truth. Thank you so much,
Everything's
Kathy.
gonna be all right.
I also am very grateful to have had this several weeks to think about this topic of non-attachment, but I can't claim that I've made a lot of headway or progress. But I've written a lot of notes, and I'm going to share just a few with you, starting out with what comes up for me when I think about attachment in a Buddhist context. I'm attached when something matters to me, but it's not just individual beings or stuff or nature. It suffuses everything. I'm attached to living, to being in life. And any inventory of particular things would fill countless volumes. I mean, it would include relationships, experiences, interpretations, ideas, values, moods, judgments, righteousness, comfort, stuff. I'm attached to all that, and in a sense, that is my identity. Note 2 on non-attachment. I realize that I do have a concept of non-attachment that's akin in my mind to enlightenment, which I don't expect to achieve in this lifetime, by the way. Non-attachment offers the possibility of a different relationship with all that matters to me. An understanding, a view that encompasses everything and doesn't resist or grasp, that sees clearly and accepts what is, while standing on one's own ground. Understanding that I'm a node in the vast tapestry of being, which is far beyond form and emptiness. Big mind, equanimity. The obsessive need to change, correct, fix, monitor things, diminished. Anxiety about outcomes, diminished. I feel that it's what I'm oriented toward, seeking, even longing for. And I feel in our vows, I find that intention toward non-attachment. And note 3 on should. Thinking about this talk today, I realize that I habitually think, when I think about attachment and non-attachment, I think I should be more non-attached. I should be moving toward non-attachment, should be letting go. I should be loosening my grasp, my grip on phenomena in the larger context. It isn't that I'm driven to attain enlightenment, but I just want to make progress. And I don't want to be mired in the myriad attachments that manifest in my life. Greed, hatred, and delusion. I sometimes marvel at how inefficient my progress is in terms of understanding what this human existence is. And just reading Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, is very humbling and a kind of a balm, I think, on this topic. Dogen, so Suzuki Roshi is quoting Dogen Zenji. Although everything has Buddha nature, we love flowers and we do not care for weeds. This is true of human nature. But that we are attached to some beauty is itself Buddha's nature. That we do not care for weeds is also Buddha's activity. We should know that. If you know that, it is right to attach to something. If it is Buddha's attachment, that is non-attachment. So in love, there should be hate or non-attachment. In hate, there should be love or acceptance. Love and hate are one thing. We should not attach to love alone. We should accept hate. We should accept weeds, despite how we feel about them. If you do not care for them, do not love them. If you love them, then love them. And I think, this tells us we're not talking about detachment, but a kind of relationship that is accepting and not grasping. Okay, I wanted to talk about a couple of areas where I feel especially attached. And one is in the area of justice and injustice in the world. I find this is some of the hardest stuff for me, because I feel gripped by the injustice that's happening in the world, and how to come to equanimity with that is an ongoing challenge for me. But understanding my own place in the scheme of things and aspiring toward a kind of dissolution of my self-centeredness is, I think, helpful in my being more effective in the world. One of the things I love so much about the Sangha is that justice is an integral part of our shared practice. Another area is in age and loss, aging. And I find that with retirement and aging in this season of my life, what's coming up very close for me now, that's undeniable and irrefutable, is the impermanence of this game. And it's always been this way. It was just that I didn't quite notice it for a long time. I was in a class at San Francisco Zen Center with Jennifer Block about 10 years ago, and she was teaching a course on contemplative care for caregivers. And she did an exercise that was so important for me and powerful. She had a group of us sit around, and she gave out cards that had on them written relationships or places or even personal capacities. And so, like a spouse or a close friend or one's home or being able to walk, or these things that we can expect to possibly lose over time, especially as we age. And so she had us turn over these cards, one by one. And it was very, very powerful to think about what those losses are. Now I feel like I'm living it because I'm old enough to be in that season of life. And boy, does attachment show up there. So I wanted to mention just other areas of attachment. Stuff. I've got a lot of stuff and I want to have less stuff. But I find that books and mementos and random things remind me of people, remind me of times, and I want to hold on. And hoping that that will give way to some detachment and equanimity. So Suzuki Roshi on page, 21, says, you know how he says in this book over and over, it's the most important thing. Mm-hmm. He's talking supposedly kind of about different things, but it's all the same thing. For Zen students, the most important thing is not to be dualistic. Our original mind includes everything within itself. It is always rich and sufficient within itself. You should not lose your self-sufficient state of mind. This does not mean a closed mind, but actually an empty mind and a ready mind. If your mind is empty, it is always ready for anything. It is open to everything. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the experts, there are few. So I think this notion that also goes, or this teaching that goes through the book about have sincere and firm conviction in original mind is such a beautiful teaching and very anchoring, I think. And I want to say too that just in my practice, the Pema Chodron's advice to don't bite the hook, what Kathy mentioned, taking the backward step, are so helpful as I'm living in this world of attachment. So here we are, back to practice, as Suzuki Roshi advises us, come back to practice, just here, just now. Thank you. Okay. And I think we contemplated having